Anyways, we should probably get to these games.
Yeah. Both of our teams play at 1 o'clock, but I want to save those games toward the end so we can dig a little deeper into them. We'll start off with the more dull matchup of today in Miami visiting the Dallas Cowboys. We have the biggest Vegas line ever in the history of the NFL, I believe, at least in decades. I know that for sure. Dallas is favored by 22.5 points. As far as injuries go, I mean, to make it worse for Miami, you still have Rashad Jones out. Your wide receiver, Albert Wilson, will not be in this one, so look for guys like Preston Williams to step in and play a role, but it's going to be ugly today. I mean, Dallas figures to run all over them. They're going to be without Michael Gallup, so I put on Twitter yesterday that a guy like Devin Smith might be an interesting play. Maybe not so much for redraft or dynasty, but if you're playing DFS, a daily fantasy, I'm sure it would be fairly cheap and a guy who could at least score a touchdown. So he might be a good play there. Dak Prescott figures to have a huge day. He's been very impressive thus far, and that's an Eagles fan saying that he's making great throws and he's playing within the system. I know that Jay, is probably steaming right now listening to this because he certainly is playing within his system. It's not going to look as good without the play actions from Zeke, but he is making the throws. He still has a few here and there where you're like, well, there's the old Dak that's inaccurate, but right now it's working. And even Jason Witten's a guy who I've seen a lot of people streaming this week just because tight end is such a hard position to predict. And if you can get a touchdown, then so be it. And I think Jason Witten, who I believe has caught a touchdown in each of the first 2 weeks,
Wait a second,
another good shot this week.
I resent those comments because we are basically on this show talking fantasy stuff. From a fantasy quarterback standpoint, you better damn be playing him or you're a freaking moron while he's hot right now because you don't know how long it's going to be. On other shows, I'm talking about actual football, like real football stuff. This is fantasy. Dude, if you have any inkling or you're not playing Dak because of any bias, that would include myself. If I didn't have Mahomes or Rodgers, you damn right I'd be trying to pick up Dak if he was available and play him. I mean, hello, this is fantasy. You're trying to win. Your bias has got to go aside. I mean, I drafted freaking Tyreek Hill for Christ's sakes.
Oh yeah, I was referring to Witten as the big pickup for this week. If you have
Randall Cobb,
team, you should absolutely be playing him. Randall Cobb actually might end up with a good day today as well. He's a guy you can stick in your flex spot, and if he doesn't get a touchdown, I mean, he's at least going to get plenty of catches. So you're rolling all your Cowboys out there.
Are you starting all of your fantasy advice right now, Dillon? Is that what you're doing for the week?
I'm going to do it all game by game. Yeah.
Fine. We got to skim through because we missed a couple last week.
That's right.
Well, I'm just saying.
All right, so obviously everyone's taking.
Play music.
Obviously,
we don't know who you can roll out there. Yeah, Dallas for sure. I'm not going to be watching.
Josh Rosen breaks the spread. He goes. I think he does it. I think he goes against the spread and gets not wins, but I think he breaks the 25-point margin. Or the 22.5. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Dallas wins by 18. That's it.
Oh, you don't think they're going to cover?
Josh Rosen, screw the Vegas odds. I want to see it.
Oh, boy.
Dude, Dallas
Josh
is
Rosen,
smoke.
That brings up another good point. If you have Dallas's defense today, you should be celebrating, jumping up and down, eating cake, because they're certainly going to be eating cake. They should score as many, if not more points than the Patriots did last week against Miami. So I feel bad for you if you're out there and you're playing the owner who has Dallas' defense.
I don't want to jump around on you, but just because there is a little bit of some games that are going to be affected by weather in the Midwest, including the Kansas City, Baltimore game and the Green Bay Broncos game, and I think a couple others that are being played outdoors. Why don't you jump to those so that people have a little more time? Because I know there's some panic and some questions that a lot of people have with those. Because it's going to affect them. I'm just saying.
We'll get to them.
I'm trying to give you guys direction because I know people right now that are listening. They're panicking, man, about these damn games and what they should do.
Let them panic.
No, don't let them panic, Dave.
Let them lose their fantasy leagues.
No.
This is not your show. Go sit down, Dave.
We're not here to do that. So you wanna zoom right into the Green Bay game then?
Why don't you start with the other ones and end with that one? Because
we didn't give our predictions on Dallas and Miami, Dillon.
There's a lot more fantasy players out there that aren't on the Broncos. Like, as far as fantasy goes, there's more implications in other games than the Green Bay Broncos game. Let's be real, Dillon. I mean, you know that.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm not sure what the weather's supposed to be like out there in Kansas City, but that's the big game of 1 o'clock spread if you ask me. When you have exciting Lamar Jackson going out there to take on the reigning MVP Pat Mahomes. I mean, if the wind is swirling out there, if the weather gets nasty, then you might be looking at something that really affects things because obviously they plan to swing it around out there. Pat Mahomes always seems like he gets 350 yards or more and 3 touchdowns. He's good for that every time. So, yeah, if the wind's whipping around out there, you're going to want to watch out. I know fantasy-wise, Damian Williams owners are going to have to sit this week out. Hopefully you grab Shady McCoy early on. He's questionable with an ankle injury. So I know there's a lot of people that picked up Darwin Thompson, and they're wondering if they can play him today. I'd be a little nervous about playing either guy simply because, if it works out that McCoy gets a bunch of touches, he may be ineffective with his ankle, and that Totek Thompson is not getting the opportunities. And if it ends up being Thompson the entire time, then, you may have just be looking at a 1-week rental once Damian Williams comes back. But, as far as Sammy Watkins and Demarcus Robinson goes, I know everyone's trying to figure out who's it going to be this week. Is Sammy the first week and Robinson the second week? So if you have both, by all means, play them both. But you got to roll both of them out there. And even if you have Hartman, I'd be looking for him this week as well. Travis Kelce, all as usual, going to have a huge week. On Baltimore's side of the ball, Mark Andrews has been limited with a foot injury, but he's going to be playing today. Marquise Hollywood Brown is at his hip injury. He didn't practice all week, but he's still going to be good to go. And Jimmy Smith's still out. So those Kansas City wide receivers are looking to run up the field and get things done as they have been. How do you feel about this game, Dave? Do you think Baltimore's defense is going to show up, or is Pat Mahomes going to look like his old usual self?
I mean, Pat Mahomes has, how do I put this? He is, like last year, even with the Rams game, with the big interconference game last year, he threw, 3-4 interceptions in that game and fumbled a couple times, and they barely lost. So, I mean, Mahomes can afford to have a couple turnovers still and still put up 4 or 5 touchdowns and win the game. So I expect Chiefs to win it. I expect them to cover the spread by a touchdown. I think Lamar does well. I just think maybe when a Kansas City's acquisition like Honey Badger or Frank Clark comes through with a turnover late in the game.
Could be one of those scenarios where Baltimore has the ball last and it comes down to Lamar having to win it for him. I could definitely see that. He gets a big sack or fumbles the ball. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Now going
I'll take the Chiefs to Yep.
Yeah, I'll take the Chiefs to. I'll definitely take the Chiefs to cover that. They'll win by more than that. They'll win by a touchdown. Yeah, I like that pick too. Coming back to another outdoor game that could be affected by weather, we have my Philadelphia Eagles at home against the Detroit Lions. Not looking forward to this game at all. I think it's a trash game. I think it's a game the Lions can certainly win, and I'm going to be pulling my hair out the whole time. You have Deshaun Jackson out. You have Alshon Jeffrey questionable with a calf injury. I don't think if he plays, I don't think he's going to be effective at all. Same for Dallas Goedert, who's also questionable with a calf injury. So Nelson Aguilar was a great pickup this week. If you were hurting a wide receiver and needed someone to put in there, I think Aguilar is a great play. He's going to see a lot of targets, might even score a touchdown. Zach Ertz, another,
Mac Collins
goes up. Mac Collins isn't, I feel like there's better guys on the waiver wire, like like a Deebo Samuel, someone
Okay.
like that who's been seeing a lot of targets. Yeah, I wouldn't be too desperate to pick up a Mac Hollins, but Carson Wentz is a bad play this week if you ask me, because you got guys like Darius Slay out there who's always been a solid cover corner, and the Lions, as bad as they look, they always win games ugly. They still stick in it with a stingy defense. So and
they don't play well outside of Ford Field.
Well, that's a good point. But I've been super impressed by that middle linebacker for them, Tavai. He's playing really well this season.
Yeah, Jelani Tavai has been a pleasant surprise, especially with Gerard Davis out. But there's another biggie that I'm paying attention to is Deshaun Hand for the Lions. It looks like he's going to be out for the third straight week, and he's one of the interior defensive linemen that can help run stuff. But Detroit Lions' run defense has been getting torched a little bit, and I expect Miles Sanders and Darren Sproles to do some damage.
Man, I hope you're right. I'm so ready for the Miles Sanders breakout, and I know all his owners are too. It's just like, come on, let's get it going. He had a few nice runs last week that were called back due to penalty, and I think almost every running back had that happen last week with all the holding calls that happened. But it's finally time to separate himself and really get going, and the offensive line needs to help out there too. But otherwise, on the Lions side of the ball, Kerryon Johnson, I'm not looking for a big day out of him because the Eagles do have a typically pretty good rush defense. But Kenny G on the outside should have a nice day. The Eagles secondary has been getting torched lately, and if they're not
applying, you think Maddox has trouble with Amendola?
I don't think he'll necessarily have trouble with Amendola. Maddox has trouble with bigger guys. Like he gave up a big game to Allen Robinson last year with a bunch of double moves and things like that. But I think he can cover those quicker guys like Amendola. Hockenson, I wouldn't look for a big day out of him either, just because of Malcolm Jenkins and the super cover safety that he is. He usually doesn't give up a whole lot of points to big guys like that. He's a guy who actually is a bad matchup for Damian Amendola. Got a smaller guy with quick feet. Those are Jenkins' weak points, but he can usually cover those bigger guys. So I wouldn't look for a big day out of Hockenson, but he'll more than likely at least score a touchdown. I do see the Lions moving the ball pretty well in this game. But all in all, the Eagles are 5-point favorites. I don't think they cover that. I think they win by a field goal.
Yep, I was going to say I think they win by 3. I'm looking at the game last week with Eckler and Justin Jackson, and they combined with rushing over 120 yards. Eckler had a whole nother 67 yards in receiving. So, I mean, I think the running backs are going to have a field day with Sproles and Sanders, especially with that type of with that type of defense giving up that type of production. I think Philly gets itself right back on track with a field goal win.
I tell you, with these guys out with injury, a guy like Sproles is huge today because when he makes a big play, it juices up the entire team.
Yeah,
so
always.
If he gets loose on a wheel route or returns a punt, then that's going to be huge, and I would definitely look for Philly to carry that momentum throughout the game if that happens. But we really need it. We really need a big play out of Sproles. Another big day out of Zach Ertz. He's going to see a ton of targets. But that's enough about my Eagles. I could talk about them all day, and I love them. I just hope we need this win today. I mean, Dallas is carrying the momentum, and they've already got 2 division wins under their belt. So to fall short to the Lions at home today, I know would be a momentum killer, and we got a tough schedule ahead. So really need a big win today. Moving on. Which game do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about Jets New England, or do you want to dive into Giants and Tampa Bay?
Well, Jets in New England is easy. I think New England covers the spread. I think they win that handed easily. Jets have way too many people out. I think I saw Quinn Williams might be out again. C.J. Mosley was questionable. You still have Darnold out. You're facing Luke Falk against Brady, and I think they cover that by more than a touchdown.
Now, this game is pretty important for your fantasy team today since you're playing both Brady and Michelle. What are you expecting out of them?
I expect Michelle to go on and have a good game. I really do. I don't think they're going to have a problem. The New England offensive line always seems to make holes, and Michelle's the type of back that can get skinny inside the line.
You just hope they don't game script each other out, right? You hope that they both can get their touchdowns in, and it doesn't just turn into either an aerial assault or just a ground and pound affair. Because when you're playing a quarterback and running back on the same team, obviously